Nevada, the blistering furnace at the heart of America, doesn't just drain the life out of every plant. It tests human patience itself, rejecting nearly every greening method farmers have tried for decades. And then, just when every solution had collapsed into dead ends, a bizarre idea emerged. An idea the entire agricultural community mocked as insane. Impossible, even delusional. A group of Nevada farmers released millions of bees directly into the desert. No hives, no honey, no wooden frames or protective nets. Within weeks, barren fields began transforming in ways no one could have predicted. Join Globe Journey as we discover how these tiny creatures rewrote Nevada's future. Before truckloads of bees rolled into the desert, Nevada was an unsolvable riddle. The sun baked the ground into a hardened crust. Minerals from ancient lakes formed a stubborn shell across the land. Year after year, crop yields quietly declined, as if the earth itself had grown tired of cooperating. Yet amid this punishing landscape, one plant refused to surrender: alfalfa. With its soft blue-purple blooms and surprising resilience, sank roots deeper than any other crop. It tapped into hidden streams of groundwater only it seemed able to reach. And when pollinated properly, alfalfa could do something extraordinary. It produced tiny seeds valuable enough to transform the destiny of an entire farm. These seeds helped soil retain moisture and slow desertification. But the challenge lay in the flowers themselves. They did not release pollen easily. Each blossom opened only under a precise weight, with the right pressure, at exactly the right moment. To trigger pollen release, something had to strike the flower's keel with just enough force. Too little and nothing happened. Just right, and the flower would snap upward, striking the visiting insect and coating it with pollen. A built-in defense and delivery system in one. For most pollinators, though, this mechanism was more trouble than it was worth. And thousands of honeybees arrived in crates stacked high along the fields. Growers hoped these imported bees would save their pollination prices. But inside the alfalfa fields, the truth unfolded quickly. After only a few painful encounters with the flower's sharp keel, honeybees changed tactics. Instead of landing squarely on the blooms, they began to sidestep them. Sipping nectar through tiny holes they chewed into the petals. This clever workaround allowed them to feed without ever touching the pollen. The result: fields buzzing with bees, yet desperately short on seeds. Farmers watched as acres of purple blossoms faded into empty pods. Seed yields dropped so low that entire harvests barely covered the cost of the bees themselves. Contracts fell through. Loans stalled. And each season ended with the same sinking question: why won't the flowers set seed? Not for lack of trying. Some doubled the number of hives. Others experimented with different strains of honeybees. But the outcome never changed. Honeybees simply refused to do what alfalfa needed most. And without the right pollinator, the entire system would remain broken. Until the early 1950s, a quiet revolution began in the fields and labs of Washington State University. Faced with honeybees' consistent failure, entomologists turned their attention to the land itself. They noticed something unusual on the valley edges: wild ground-nesting bees thriving in the salty, barren soils. These bees, later identified as Nomia melanderi, the alkali bee, did not make honey, build wooden hives, or form colonies like honeybees. Instead, they dug tunnels deep into alkaline soil, a habitat humans had long dismissed as worthless. What astonished researchers was how perfectly the bees' size, weight, and landing behavior matched the alfalfa flower's snap-release mechanism. No other bee species came close. Field tests confirmed their hunch. Wherever alkali bees were plentiful, alfalfa seed yields skyrocketed. Their willingness to land directly on the flowers, endure the impact, collect pollen, and move on made them unmatched pollinators. Unlike honeybees, alkali bees never hesitated. Each female worked independently but nested in dense clusters, carving out underground cities. Their metallic stripes and smaller bodies distinguished them. But it was their behavior that changed everything. Archived university reports documented dramatic differences in seed set between fields with and without alkali bees, sometimes many times higher. The discovery shifted the entire narrative. The solution was not stronger honeybees or more imported hives. It was soil, salinity, and a native species evolution had already prepared for the job. Transforming farmland into habitat for wild bees required farmers to think against every instinct they had. Instead of enriching the soil, they deliberately salted it enough to turn it white and prevent almost anything else from growing. The numbers were staggering: roughly 22 tons of mineral salt per acre, spread across land that could have grown wheat or hay. To outsiders, it looked like sabotage. But beneath the surface, a far more deliberate plan was unfolding. Next came water. Not surface irrigation, but groundwater control. Crews dug shallow trenches to trap moisture away from the summer sun. Into these trenches, they poured layers of washed gravel, creating a hidden underground reservoir. Perforated PVC pipes, arranged in a grid about 30 centimeters below the surface, allowed farmers to add or remove water with precision. These pipes balanced the delicate moisture levels alkali bees required. Too much water meant flooded nests. Too little, and the soil hardened, driving bees away. Above the gravel, soil was rebuilt layer by layer, sandy loam with minimal clay, firm enough to support tunnels but soft enough for bees to dig. A final dusting of salt formed a crust that slowed evaporation and preserved the hidden humidity. Though the surface looked dead and cracked, probes revealed a narrow zone of perfect moisture exactly where bees needed it. None of this was guesswork. Soil scientists measured electrical conductivity, tracked moisture movement, and fine-tuned salt levels until conditions matched those of natural bee nesting sites. The result was a landscape engineered for a single purpose: to attract millions of wild bees and give them the perfect place to nest and multiply. For the families who invested in these bee beds, the stakes were enormous. Thousands of dollars per acre went into land that might never host a single bee. But in this calculated gamble, a new form of agriculture was taking shape. In the Walla Walla Valley, the idea of turning fertile farmland into stretches of white, salted ground challenged everything growers had long believed. To most farmers, the land was a treasure to be protected and planted, not deliberately transformed into powdery barrens. Yet families such as the Ingrams chose to take that unlikely step. They committed not just a few test plots, but dozens of acres that could have supported profitable crops. To neighbors, the pale, crusted bee beds looked like evidence of failure. For years, people passed by and wondered why anyone would surrender valuable fields for the sake of a small and little-known insect. Many shook their heads at what seemed like a costly mistake. But for those who embraced the experiment, the choice became larger than any calculation of yield or cost. It evolved into a pledge of stewardship, a commitment to the soil, the native bees, and the community of growers who depended on both. In time, others began to understand. Local officials acknowledged the importance of the nesting grounds and posted signs that reduced driving speeds to 20 miles per hour. These limits were not meant for children or livestock, but for the protection of bees. The reasoning was straightforward. Fast-moving vehicles stirred up dust and sent vibrations through the fragile surface, disturbing nesting females or collapsing their subterranean tunnels. For the first time, traffic rules recognized insects as neighbors deserving of safety. Delivery drivers and farm machinery operators soon adjusted their routes, avoiding the most sensitive areas and treating the bee beds with the same respect as any vital piece of infrastructure. In cafes and in church halls, conversations shifted. What had once looked like a risky gamble slowly became a source of local identity. School children learned about alkali bees alongside lessons on wheat production and irrigation. Small newspapers highlighted the growing network of bee districts, drawing visitors eager to witness the unusual approach to pollination. The dedication of 30 acres or more was no longer the burden of a single family. It became a collective venture, a show of confidence in a species that many residents had never noticed before. Together, they opened their valley to millions of new inhabitants, each one no larger than a grain of rice, yet capable of influencing the fate of every alfalfa harvest around them. A single acre of bee bed, a place that appeared empty and salt-washed, held a population density rivaling that of a bustling city. By midsummer, researchers estimated that nearly 40 million alkali bees were active across the valley. Each female emerged from her tunnel and lifted into the purple shimmer of alfalfa blossoms. The sound of their labor was not a sharp buzz, but a gentle, continuous hum drifting across the fields, a quiet reminder that the ground below was alive. Underneath the surface, the bees shaped intricate tunnel systems linking thousands of nests. Their density astonished researchers, with individuals building homes only inches apart. Above ground, the bees revealed themselves in fleeting glints of metallic color, rising and sinking in constant movement between flower and nest. During the 6-week bloom, a single well-tended acre of bee bed could support pollination for more than 100 acres of alfalfa. The bees excelled at their task. Each time a female pressed against the stubborn flower keel it released, Pollen set seeds and secured the future of the crop. The impact at scale was extraordinary. 1 acre of alfalfa seed crop could yield 100,000 pounds of clean seed when pollinated effectively. Fields that had once lain quiet now flourished, driven by the natural power of insects converting salt soil and sunlight into significant agricultural output. The transformation exceeded all expectations. Within a few seasons, the Walla Walla Valley rose to become a national leader in alfalfa seed production, responsible for nearly a quarter of all seed used in the country. Annual regional revenues climbed to $42 million, a figure unimaginable to the first families who had salted their land on faith. Individual farms saw even clearer benefits. Some growers reported that their bee beds contributed up to $1 million in value each year through dependable yields and secure contracts. Seed production increased by hundreds of pounds per acre, at times more than 400 pounds beyond what honeybee pollination alone could achieve. What began as an act of desperation grew into the economic foundation of the region. Farmers once facing the possibility of bankruptcy now viewed the bees as trusted partners. One described the bee beds as the best insurance money can buy. Others called them the hidden engine of the valley. The numbers made plain how risk had gradually shifted into prosperity, and how a community had learned to trust a native bee once considered insignificant. Yet the system remained vulnerable. A single storm could undo years of careful work. Heavy spring rains once flooded entire nesting grounds, suffocating countless larvae and collapsing tunnel networks. Farmers quickly absorbed the lesson. Too much moisture and the bees would not return. Scientists from Washington State University worked alongside growers to redesign the beds. Modern constructions now include buried drainage pipes and gravel-lined reservoirs that maintain ideal conditions, wet enough for tunneling, but never so saturated that nests are lost. Remote sensors positioned under the crust report continuous readings of soil temperature and moisture, giving farmers advance warning when danger approaches. Chemical exposure created another threat. A wrongly timed pesticide application once eliminated entire populations. Today, growers follow strict pest management plans, applying sprays only at night when bees remain underground. Only the least harmful chemicals are used, and only when monitoring shows they are necessary. University teams test every new product to ensure it poses no danger to the alkali bee. A culture of constant vigilance has taken root. One careless action can erase years of dedicated care. Protecting the bees requires attention from the first moist days of spring to the final hours of bloom. The message is unmistakable. The remarkable success of millions of underground bees endures only through steady, thoughtful cooperation. The valley thrives because its people chose to safeguard a fragile partner, and in doing so, transformed both their land and their future. Today, 1/4 of America's alfalfa seed thrives in the Nevada desert. Not through human force, but through partnership with a native bee most people had never heard of. The alkali bee, thriving where others cannot, reminds us that the most powerful solutions often lie hidden beneath our feet. In a world where pollinators are vanishing at alarming rates, this story offers hope. It proves that when we stop fighting nature and start listening to it, we don't just survive, we flourish. Communities grow stronger, harvests multiply, and tiny creatures no bigger than a grain of rice can rewrite the future of an entire region. The farmers of Nevada didn't conquer the desert. They learned to work with it. They salted their land, protected the underground cities, and trusted a species evolution had already perfected for the job. And in return, they built an industry worth tens of millions of dollars. But this story raises a question we all must answer. What other solutions are we missing because we're not paying attention? What miracles are waiting beneath the surface? If only we slow down, observe, and protect what's already there. If this story inspired you, hit that like button or hype button on your phone. Don't forget to subscribe to Globe Journey for more incredible tales of nature, innovation, and human resilience. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What can we learn from the alkali bee? How can we apply this lesson of partnership with nature in our own lives? The future isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about protecting what already works. Let's keep exploring together.